Excel is a spreadsheet program that is made by Microsoft, just like Word is. You can find it here from your start files. It is a spreadsheet program that is used to arrange and analyze numbers, to sort information, to make calculations, and to make charts and graphs from the numbers that you insert. When you open Excel, any files that you have previously saved will show up here. And over here on the right, there are different templates as well as a blank notebook to work from. I'm going to choose blank notebook to show you some of the options. So first, when you open an Excel file, you are actually creating a workbook. If you look at the bottom of the screen, you notice how there's a tab that says Sheet 1. This is a spreadsheet. Okay, think of it as a single page is a spreadsheet. You can add more pages or more spreadsheets to your entire workbook, and you can actually perform calculations that go between spreadsheets. Let's look at the different parts. Up here we have the file name, and by default it calls it book and then follows by a number. You'll have to do a file save as for the first time, locate your OneDrive, and of course I want you to make sure that you are creating a new folder for Excel so that you can name it and save it in that folder in your OneDrive. So this is your quick access toolbar up here. Here we have our ribbons. Just like we did in Word, there will be some different tools on them. Whoops, but they are there. Okay. And we have our close, minimize, restore, maximize, and then our minimize buttons over here. The different tools that show up on the ribbons, and some very important things that make Excel what they are. Right here we have the name box, and the name box is simply telling you what cell you have selected. So you can see that when I click, it's showing me the intersection of column Q, columns go up and down, and row 17, rows go left to right. So that's Q17. You always say the letter first, which is the column, okay? So these are your column headings here. Notice that when you get past Z, the letters start to double up, okay? And then row headings going down. So whenever you see in the name bar, or name box rather, and you click here and you see the border around it, this is telling you it's the active cell. So whatever you start typing or whatever tool you try to use, it is going to apply it to that active cell. Just like down here at the bottom, whatever tab is highlighted, that is your active worksheet. Okay? Each one of these boxes represents a cell. And of course, that's this intersection of a row and a column. Now, just like in Word, you can format titles, text, images, what have you. You can see the clipboard, you can see the font and alignment, just like you had in Microsoft Word. Here we have the ability to change the format of a cell, to change the number format of it. Here we have different styles and some things that are specific to Excel. You can format images, numbers, margins, orientation of the spreadsheet. You have the ability to cut, copy, paste, just like you did in other programs. The formula bar, that is this right here. Whatever you type into your active cell is going to show up in your formula bar. Okay? If you click on it, you can edit it. 2 different places. Here, we have our insert function. And in our insert function, there are several pre-formatted functions for you to use to make calculations. To get from one cell to the other, you hit Tab to move across in the same row. And if you hit Enter, notice it takes me to the column of where I started previously, but in the next row. Okay? You can also use your arrows on the keyboard. So if I started here in C4 and hit Tab a few times and then return, notice it takes me to C5 next. Okay, and that's because that was where I performed something last, was in the cell just above it. So something to take into account. The thing that you want to get away from is using your mouse to move from one cell to another, because that leaves you with one hand on your keyboard. You want to try to use your keyboard as much as possible. Now, if you were to insert an image, I'm just going to pick one. Notice that we get a contextual tab. This Picture Tools Format tab was not there until I inserted it. Contextual means it's based on what is selected. Okay, so you have the ability to format images here as well. Under the View, you have the ability, and let me, I'll type a few days of the week. Whoops. And let's see if it will. Yay, look. All right, so I just used autofill to do that, by the way. But if I click here, I can freeze panes, freeze the first column, and let's say I'm just going to give some and all right. So if I scroll, see how it's frozen? So I can always see, if I get really long spreadsheets, I can always see what goes with that row. Same thing with the columns. I can unfreeze them and I could freeze the top. Now, you maybe saw when I drug the cell and it auto-filled. So Excel is pretty intelligent. If I put in today's date, which is April 4th, I could see the little kind of square dot at the bottom right corner. And you notice how when I put my mouse over that corner, the cursor changes to a black crosshair. That allows me to click and drag, and it is guessing that I want to fill the remaining, wherever I drag it to, with the next date in line. And it can do that with numbers too. So if I did a 1, 2, it might do that. Okay. Now if I just did a 1, let's see if it, whoops, I didn't grab a hold of the dot. It doesn't know what I'm doing because I only gave it one item. Here I gave it 2, and so it was able to figure that out. Okay, but it is a very useful tool to make your work go faster. Remember that in addition to your cut, copy, and paste here, you also have the keyboard shortcuts. Cut is Control-X, copy is Control-C, paste is Control-V. Okay, And whatever you do, you have to know what it is you have selected and where your mouse is in order to paste to make sure that things are working correctly. Under the insert command, you have, again, pictures, shapes, etc. But one of the big features of Excel is being able to put in charts and graphs based on the data that you have collected. Here we have a draw. You have page layout, which allows you to change the margins, the orientation, the size, the print area. And here is something that is important. So notice the grid lines here. If you go to print, these grid lines don't print automatically. So if you want those grid lines there, you have to check that under this page layout, and then they will print. Here we have different types of formulas, data. We have sort and filter, ways to review your work. Like I showed you, different ways to view your work, and of course to send it to Acrobat. Okay? Control Z will undo your previous works. Oh, and let me show you this one, Auto Sum. It's over at the far right of the home, next to sort and filter. So I have put my cursor over here in L5. I have these numbers up next to it. If I hit Auto Sum, it is looking at my spreadsheet and it is saying, there are 8 numbers just to the left of this. I think that that's what she wants me to auto sum. It is. However, let's say that you didn't want all of those. Notice the marching ants. This is your selection. So I could revise that and I could say, oh, I only want these. And notice that it gives you it in a formula. All formulas start with an equals sign, and it tells me what I want it to do. I want to sum E5 through K5. That's what this formula means. And then when I hit enter, it applies it, and it gives me the answer to it. Now, it is giving me a little notice here because they think that I missed that because remember I deselected it. I could, by double-clicking, go back in. Whoops, not by double-clicking. Go back in, and I have E5. I could change that to D5. And notice I can do that with typing it as well. Okay? So, you've got some basics here to get you started. So now what I want you to do is go ahead and close this video, and you can go to the next set of directions.